Good evening, everyone. It's the Activated One New Bright 10. First and foremost, I want to say peace or jasa. This topic is going to be on the thugs and where the term came from. See, the term thugs came from the East Indians when they had a cult of savages going around and doing miscellaneous murders on their own people. So that's why when you're dealing with mankind, they're always going to push something that our ancestors never taught them. They're not going to push all the secrets that they got from Egypt, they got from the tombs, that they got from the Olmecs, that they got from the Aztecs, that they got from the Sumerians. They're not going to push that because that's why it's called a secret society. Because the power is in the secrets. The power always been in the secrets. It's not been on what they've been pushing. The pushing of the thug is for the demented state of the mind frame of the so-called black race. They're always going to push the thug or the gangsters. Who was the first gangsters in the United States? I'm not sure, but I think the first gang that was recorded was in New York, and it was by the Irish. I'm not sure if I'm right. It was by the Italians or the Irish. The first recorded gang was in New York. So that's something that mankind had made up. That didn't come from so-called black people. The gang, the thug mentality, anything that people do on television, the tell live vision, is being pushed for a reason. And I'll tell you this one story. When I used to live in the projects, this was about 15, 16, maybe even 18 years ago when I used to live in the projects, my two little brothers, it was that song that came on, do the jerk, do the jerk, do the jerk, jerk, jerk. That song had came out. And I was even somewhat activated even back in the day. So I'm listening to that song and I'm like, I told my brothers, they had a couple of their friends there. I said, man, you know what they're talking about in that song? They're like, no. I said, just listen to it. I said, man, they're talking about, okay, on one of the verses of that song, they say they get into an argument or something about it with one of the girls at the party, and he got sick of it, or it was something like that. He had got sick of all the girls at the party, so then he grabbed all the fellas and they went home and did the jerk. And I said, man, this is some gay right here. My brother's like, and then his friend's like, and I'm like, man, just really listen to it. They're like, oh my gosh, man, I ain't even hear that. I said, yeah. I said, and you know, the jerk that they're really talking about, I'm going to give you guys a visual of what type of jerk they're talking about in that song. Allegedly, they're talking about, okay, say you got a guy and he's bench pressing, and then you got two guys on the side of him spotting him. But instead of him grabbing the bench press bars, he's grabbing their two other penises. That's what the jerk means. That's what that song meant. They went home and they did the whoop wop. Man, they freaked. Man, one of their friends was like, man, I didn't even hear that, because for one, they weren't activated, so they really couldn't catch it. I was woke back in the day, because you got woke. Like I said, there's 4 stages. There's woke. No, there's religion, woke, conscious, and activated. There's only 4 stages in this 3-dimensional realm. You can't have 5 stages, because the next dimension is the 4th dimension. So you only can have 4 stages. You can only have the 3 that's here in the 3-dimensional realm, and then the 4th one, which is the activated stage, what you're activating when you're going back and forth from the 3rd dimension back up to the 4th and back. That's what that's where the term back and forth comes from. That's where they got that term from. They got that term from our ancestors, and they leaked it into the English language. The term back and forth, back because the fourth dimensional beings, they come through portals. They don't even use spaceships. Spaceships is for these three-dimensional beings that's here on the planet, in the solar system and in the universe. They use spaceships. They don't use no portals. You got to be on a plasma stage to open up a portal. But back to the thug mentality, the gangster mentality. And that's the thing that's why I can't take people serious. I can't take these gangsters serious, because everything that come out their mouth right now in this day and time has been orchestrated to come out their mouth. They're not even saying nothing futuristic or nothing that has to do with building a community or governing themselves, just like the Native Americans. What they do, they govern themselves. That's what they do. That's the whole point of living over here, is to govern yourself, just like the Jews do, just like the Amish, just like the Native Americans. There's some other communities that govern themselves as far as dealing with state issues and down. That's why on the reservations, when you're dealing with the natives, the only ones that could come on the reservation is the FBI, the feds. They can come on the reservation and do an investigation or whatnot, but the state can't. That's govern yourself. Govern your own selves. Quit relying on these people. Well, some of y'all just still going to rely on mankind and how the system's going and everyone. We're not thinking about y'all. But dealing with this term thug, the thug term, that came from the East Indians. That's where that term came from. The East Indians. And you're dealing with Tupac. He was you know what? I ain't even going. You know what? Because the reason why I'm not saying nothing about Tupac is because I did a video on Kobe Bryant, and I said, man, I'm not finna do no videos on none of these celebrities no more. That's why I'm not saying nothing about Tupac. But if you can see where I'm going with it, with the thug thing. So the term thug came from the see, they flipped everything, where they take the ideas from the so-called black race, all the ideas, new technology, dealing with new different types of form of patterns. They take that stuff and then they use it, and then what they do, they give you everything that the old stuff from mankind, all the old stuff from mankind, and push it on you so you can have a mentality that's in the past. That's where the term past comes from. Pastors, when you're dealing with a pastor, what? Present. That's what the term pastor is. Past or present. Pastors. They teach you about the past and the present. The futuristic ones, the ones that are teaching you something that makes sense, but it's not on Google and it's not in a book, that means that we're the ones that's in the future already. This is our third dimensional self. That's where the term pastor comes from, because they want you in the past or they want you in the present. Never nothing futuristic, because once you start thinking futuristic, you start going past what they're teaching. Even the terms that these thugs use, these so-called gangsters and thugs. The reason why I'm not saying gangbangers is because there's people out here, there's so-called black people out here that still are thug, but they don't gangbang. See, because the gangbangers can be somewhat of a thug also, but that's why I'm not saying gangbangers, because it all fits in the same term. The same term is the thug term. What was being pushed back in the 90s. This old doctrine, this old thug doctrine that been pushed in the 90s that was even further than that. Dealing with the Indians, the East Indians, with the murderous cults. That's where the term thug came from, was from them. They're always going to push. They're always going to push old mankind terms on the so-called black race to keep your mind back in the past. You can't move forward mentally. That's why in these streets, when they get sacrificed, when another thug blows their head off, gets shot, gunned down, the police or one of these racist white supremacists catch y'all slipping, I'm talking to the thugs, the ones who have a thug mentality, and something happens to you. You was a sacrifice. You got sacrificed. Simple as that. Because now with the internet out, and now there's no more excuses on why the way that you live, the way you live on the mankind mind frame. There's no excuse for that no more. Everybody, especially in the US, in the United States of America, everybody has a cell phone. So there's no excuse for you to be still running around here being a savage, not trying to build and govern yourselves. So when something happens to these thugs and these gangsters, there's no reason to cry and be all emotional about it. Now, if you're dealing with somebody, that was walking late at home walking late at night, going home, they ended up getting mugged and they ended up getting killed in the process. Yeah, be sad about that. That was your family member, or if that was somebody that was close to you, wrong place at the wrong time. You could be sad about that. But when these thugs, these gangbangers and these thugs, they get shot up, there's no reason to cry about that, because that's the life that they chose. That's the life that they chosen. They didn't want to be chosen. They just chose a life. And that ain't nothing for your children to be glorifying. Even these gangsters, even these so-called gangsters and gangbangers back in the day, when they were starting a movement, man, all that stuff, the Crips, the Bloods, all that stuff was infiltrated and orchestrated, man, by mankind. So if you claiming Crip, you claiming Blood, you work for the beast, man. They orchestrated that a long time ago, back after the LA riots, when they seen the community, the so-called black community in LA was coming together. They were governing themselves. Then they sent the little agents in. They sent the little agents that looked just like you, just like me. They sent them in to cause what? Chaos and confusion. One over here started the Bloods. One over here started the Crips. And then after you get that established, what's next? Drugs, independence, because the independent in the drug trade, that was a psychological, that was a what you call that? My memory's slipping right now. That is a experiment. Experiment. They're sparing you. You're expendable. So the ones that went up in there were expendable to the agenda that they were achieving. And I'm not allegedly I'm not sure, but the first Crip that started the Crips, he ended up dying or getting killed or something. And I'm not sure about the Blood ones, because the ones that, when they send these agents in and they start something it's real big, then they got to sacrifice you, because that they sent you in to start it. So you're automatically going to get sacrificed. You're automatically going to die, because they already know this shit, especially when the Crips and the Bloods got that big in California, and in the Crips and the Bloods in California, when they got big, they sent, and then what they do, they started sending them around the nation. I know one personally that came up here from California and started a gang up here, and I was always skeptical of that. Like, why would you even come up here and start a gang? I was affiliated with the gang at that time, but I'm thinking to myself, because I've always been activated, even at that age when I was 14, 15, 16, because I was a follower at that time. I wasn't a leader. I was a follower. But it was always something funny. I'm like, why would you come up here? And I always question everything because the mass majority of people nowadays, they don't question nothing. They just go with the program. I knew that back in the day that something was funny about that. And come to find out now, about 4 or 5 years ago, I found out that he was a Mason or a Freemason. It all came out. So all this stuff is an agenda. That's why you call yourself a thug, you call yourself a gangster. Even if you don't, you still live that, and you still live that lifestyle. I got no respect for you. No respect for you. I might acknowledge you and be like, excuse me, or hey, you asked me a question, but hey, what's up? Or you asked me a question, yeah, this is what's going on, yep, this and that, and keep it moving. Because all this stuff has been orchestrated by mankind. Anything on a massive scale, you got to question. What's massive? The Crips and the Bloods. And you got cliques, right? You got little cliques. Same thing goes with the stuff that's been going on in Chicago. Same thing. It's the same thing they did in Chicago. Same thing. Just because somebody come to you, look like you, don't mean it ain't working for the beast. But a lot of this next generation that's coming up, that's listening to us and following us, they're gonna be so activated. They already know that you work for the beast when you come up in their area. Because we the first ones, the first ones back on the planet that's gonna start activating minds, and everything's gonna be mental. And so when you come around and you an agent, already gonna know you an agent. Already gonna know. Mankind sent you. That's why the term thug came from the East Indians, the murderous cult. And a lot of these police killings out here, 95% of them allegedly, because I said that because I don't know the exact number of percentage, are legit. Somebody didn't comply. They were either high off some type of narcotic, some type of opioid, some type of amphetamine, had a gun on them or a knife or a weapon, and the police shot them because they didn't comply. And then you got the 5%, the 5 or 4%, not sure if that's right, that they push, the ones that's bogus. Like the Philando shooting that happened in Minnesota. Why is all these shootings happening in Minnesota? And all this stuff being pushed in Minnesota? And I live in Minnesota. Why is all this stuff happening here? Look at the map. Look at the map of the United States and look where Minnesota's at. Look at the map of United States, Canada, and Mexico, and look where Minnesota's at. That's all I'm going to say. All this stuff happening in Minnesota right now. For what? Why is that? Because they can't make you do anything. They have to activate you for you to do it. Just like the riots. You see all the thugs out there. And you had some college kids. You had some thugs. You had some working people. Then you had some gangbangers out there. It was a mixture of a lot of people that was out there rioting. And I hope you didn't have your cell phone on you. Because if you did, good luck in the future. Breaking down the word thug. And then even the gangster terms that they use, even that the mafia used to use, calling snitches rats. It's like, okay, I understand what you're trying to do, but come with something next. They can't because everything has been orchestrated in their mind to do and move a certain way. They're organic robots. That's what thugs are. Thugs and gangbangers are organic robots. They do what the beast tell them to do. It's the activated one, New Bright 10, the Futuritarian, Peace, or Jasak.